Last but not least, I hope. Ladies and gentlemen of the board and members at large, it's my great pleasure and honor to present the case of Annocki versus Peterson Enterprises, a case tried to verdict by Thomas Johnston and Don Liddy. This case epitomizes the street fighter mentality and way. It required grit on the part of the lawyers. It required overcoming great and long odds. The case from start to finish took over 7 years. And in particular, this case required great ingenuity. This case presented a number of huge obstacles that would turn away most small practitioners. This case presented difficult legal issues involving premises liability and the duty of a private property owner. This case was contested from start to finish. This case was a case of general damages only. This was not a case where large special damages were presented on behalf of the decedent. This is a case that required 2 separate trips to the Court of Appeals. And finally, this was a case that had to be tried to a jury verdict for its full resolution. The facts of this case have been presented previously, and I'll go over just briefly a synopsis of the case. Geoffrey's restaurant is a famous restaurant on Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California. PCH is a high-speed highway. It has 2 lanes in each direction. Years prior to this incident, Caltrans placed what are called quick curb paddles, separating northbound and southbound PCH. So if you were leaving a property on either side of PCH, you had to turn right. If you turned left, you would be going into oncoming traffic. A patron who was from Oklahoma had gone to Geoffrey's that night to have dinner. After dinner, he turned left onto oncoming traffic. He collided with a motorcyclist, Joseph Annocki, killing him. Joseph Annocki was 44 years of age. He was unmarried and had no children. His elderly parents were the plaintiffs in this case. The plaintiff's allegation against the restaurant was simple, that the restaurant should have warned its patrons upon exiting the property that they could only turn right onto PCH. Thomas Johnston and Don Liddy brought this case on behalf of the parents of Mr. Annocki. They named the errant driver, of course, a Mr. Turner. They named Peterson Enterprises, which is the owner of Geoffrey's restaurant and owner of the private property. And they also named Caltrans for failing to warn of a dangerous condition. This case was assigned to Amy Hogue downtown. Peterson Enterprises had brought a demur to the 3rd amended complaint. There had been numerous law motion hearings prior to the 3rd amended complaint. Judge Hogue granted or sustained the demur, ruling that there is no duty of a private property owner to warn of dangerous condition of adjacent public property. Thomas Johnston and Don Liddy did not stop there. They were not discouraged, and they filed an appeal. The Court of Appeals reversed the demur, the finding on the demur, and established new law that greatly expanded the duty of a private property owner. The Court of Appeals, in a published opinion, ruled that the landowner's duty of care encompasses a duty to avoid exposing persons to risk of injury that occur off-site if the landowner's property is maintained in such a manner as to expose persons to an unreasonable risk of injury off-site. This is a momentous published opinion when it comes to landowner duties and premises liability cases. In fact, It is the most significant published opinion on a landowner's duty in over 20 years. As you all know and have experienced, everybody cites Christian versus Rowland. This is on par with that case. It didn't stop there. Thomas and Don had to go to trial, and they went to trial for 4 weeks. Again, this was a trial pitted against numerous defendants, numerous teams of lawyers, and it was a case for general damages only. There was no financial support by Mr. Annocki to his elderly parents. The jury, after a 4-week trial, returned a verdict in favor of Mr. and Mrs. Annocki in the sum of $5 million in the Santa Monica courthouse. 50% of liability was assigned to the errant driver, 35% to the restaurant, and 15% to Caltrans. It didn't stop there. The defendants appealed the verdict. Thomas and Don went up the Court of Appeals ladder again, and the Court of Appeals unanimously found that the judgment should be affirmed. Sadly, Mrs. Annocki died 6 months after realizing justice for her son and after the verdict was affirmed by the Court of Appeals. This is the legacy of this case, not only for the Annocki parents who was able to get justice for their son, but this case single-handedly expanded the duty of private landowners to its guests and patrons. There will be legions and generations of lawyers going forward in premises liability. They will turn during the jury charge conference to KC 1001, which sets forth the basic duty of care. If you go to KC 1001 tonight, you will see that the Annocki versus Peterson Enterprise case is prominently quoted in the annotations.
David, your 7 minutes are up now.
I will just finish with this. The Street Fighter Award should go to these 2 lawyers who fought valiantly. Of the 2 cases, of the 3 cases that are nominated for Street Fighter, this is the only one with a published opinion and the only one to go to a verdict resolution. Thank you, and I'll wish you well, and I hope to see you soon.